Welcome to the summary of the Year of Less. How I stopped shopping, gave away my belongings, and discovered life is worth more than anything you can buy in a store by Cait Flanders. Let's uncover the gems together. Key point 1. The prison of material things. People rarely associate their buying habits with how they feel, what they do, or how they plan their lives. Money can be a great enabler, especially with the help of modern advertising. That said, if you suddenly lose most of your money or shopping opportunities, you'll be surprised how many things you don't need. Shady marketing is tagging things with the illusion of necessity. Cait Flanders was not in the best place when she challenged herself with a shopping ban. What started as a challenge and a way to improve her life led her through her parents' separation and job change. Still, Flanders managed to experience beautiful things like travel and self-discovery without spending an extra dollar on expensive hotels or self-care products. Flanders' story proves that buying makes us less resilient and more vulnerable to life's calamities. Releasing, on the other hand, was not as scary as she thought. If you want to change your mindset, start with the way you spend money, right after you finish with Flanders' lessons. Key point 2. What's your can opener? What comes to your mind when you hear, change your life? Maybe you're thinking about a makeover in a movie from the 2000s, or scraping that old wallpaper off. This intuitive association is not random because your home is part of your life. It is the first to reflect changes, after the new bob cut, of course. One day, Flanders realized her house was full of unnecessary objects, but not essentials, like a can opener. When she couldn't find one, Flanders decided to declutter her apartment from floor to ceiling. Starting with her bedroom and wardrobe, Flanders removed things she didn't wear regularly. Let's face it, many of us wear 1 to 3, or maybe 5, combinations of the same items. You can donate the clothes you don't wear, freeing physical and mental space for new, more relevant things. Also, remove clothes from before you lost or gained weight. Next were the living room and kitchen. If you're an avid reader who has no space for new books, why don't you donate ones you finished or didn't like? You can always borrow from a library or get a new copy. Also, throw away trinkets that don't serve nostalgia but take up space. For the kitchen, separate all dishes and devices by their frequency of use. Even the blender you bought to make smoothies but haven't used since. You can buy yourself a smoothie when you sell it. Next, clean your fridge of expired or half-used products and list things to avoid buying next time. While Flanders was doing all this, she stumbled upon 2 bottles of tequila and rum. 14 years of hard drinking ran before her eyes. From drinking once or twice a week as a teenager, she quickly spiraled down to blackouts in her 20s. Minimizing alcohol is similar to cleaning your house, except it's in your head. Soon, Flanders realized her addictions didn't disappear because they satisfied specific needs or patterns of her behavior. If you find yourself in a similar situation, think of alternatives to satisfy your triggers more cheaply and healthily. For example, if you're a big coffee fan, making it at home is a good option. Not only will you save money, but it'll let you know your preferences. However, it isn't the ultimate solution for addiction. Consider professional help if it becomes uncontrollable. Key point 3. Friendship never ends? When her apartment was clean, Flanders took the next step and started sorting out her relationships, fixing some bad habits along the way. The reason she found herself in a cluttered apartment in the first place was shopaholism triggered by a painful relationship. After her breakup with an abusive man, Flanders was adamant about building a space separate from him. She spent $1,300 on a new microfiber sofa, $700 on a coffee table, new bedding, books, clothes, and a car. Suddenly, she was $20,000 in debt. It took several trustworthy friendships for Flanders to close all the tabs with impulsive purchases. The story of Flanders' friendships starts when she leaves her corporate job to write, as her blog on decluttering has gained traction. Some believed she staged her minimalist lifestyle for subscribers' appeal. The others were nicer, including her friend Emma. One of the less apparent losses of self-restriction is friendships that fade when you start changing your routine and habits. Soon after Flanders' physical and mental pursuit of clarity, she became more estranged from her old friends. Shopping was part of their pastime, and she felt odd when they talked about new clothes. However, she understood the necessity of this change, although her old friends felt abandoned by her too. Change often involves goodbyes. That's why it's so difficult. Her shopping friends weren't the first to fall by the wayside. Flanders had already left her drug and alcohol party trying to save her 20s. As for Emma, she was an old friend, and they bonded through a crude sense of humor. She was the first Flanders confided in about debts and the decision to work out and drink less. Emma kept her accountable and respected her plans to change, a sign of true friendship rooted in more than common hobbies or bad habits. In fact, you may use Emma's little trick against spontaneous purchases. Just ask yourself these questions. Is it on the approved shopping list? Am I willing to swap it out for another thing on the list? Did you know? A review of 38 studies by the American Psychological Association showed that high-quality adult friendships lower the risk of mental health. Furthermore, close friends often share brain activity during some activities, according to a 2018 study by Nature Communications. Key point 4. Learn to make, not buy to dump. Technologies have relieved many of our routines. We can order delivery, watch anything we want, and shop whenever we like. But if it were that perfect, there wouldn't be such a thing as decluttering or a shopping ban. Flanders arrived at this conclusion by facing her mistakes. Her struggles with drinking have made her wary of excess in everything, but also made her curious about ways to economize. But let's take it one step at a time. Freeing herself of addictions did not happen overnight. Flanders had several relapses up to 2012, and not just with binge drinking, but also binge eating and shopping. She threw the cruelest insults at herself, especially for not knowing if she did anything against her morals during the blackouts. Feeling like you did something terrible doesn't make you a bad person, but a normal human being. But one last impulsive purchase was a lucky light at the end of the tunnel. Instead of the voice telling her to buy something, another reminded her she could cancel the order. In other words, some things are reversible and in your control, so don't torture yourself if you can still change the situation. Remember, you don't return to the start. You consider your mistakes and recalibrate the effort. Flanders learned this lesson the hard way, but since then, her shopping ban has revealed new interesting things about herself. One day, she was helping her friend Jen pack for moving when she noticed all the creative prints and photo albums she had made. How come Flanders never realized her friend was so talented? Then she remembered her parents had a knack for inventiveness. They were proud of being able to do everything themselves, so how come she, their daughter, never thought of making something instead of buying it? For example, as the oldest child, she knew how to cook, so why not try to cook more often and healthily? Or what about sewing her own t-shirts? Yes, it's time-consuming, but isn't it exciting? Next thing Flanders knew, she was going down multiple internet rabbit holes, trying to learn new practical things. Now what about you? Ask yourself, how much does a lifelong skill cost me? Key point 5. Sad sias and relieved highs. Divorce always affects children, no matter their age. Flanders felt this punch with both cheeks upon realizing her parents were divorcing. As the oldest child, she was used to being the third adult, and now she was worried about her two college-age siblings. Their family dinners turned into dancing around the elephant in the room, and it took some time for Flanders to realize the toll the news took on her. The anxiety slowly faded, but the fact remained the same. She went through all 5 stages of grief, but the fall was lighter with her friends beside her. In that sense, her bed has also become her friend. Do you remember when you wanted to hide from the monsters under the blankets as a kid? The monsters can follow you even when you grow up, and it's okay to let yourself be scared for a little while, as long as you have someone to tell you the monsters have gone. Claire and Emma became her saviors, and they rang the bell when their friend was hiding for a little too long. Flanders dived into work to avoid thinking about her parents. often working from the couch, grateful if she had done anything during the day. When you're an adult, your parents' divorce can feel like your own divorce. Cait Flanders. Supported by friends, she slowly let some heavy things go, material things included. Decluttering came to her rescue again, but this time, Flanders let go of something unexpected, the imaginary, perfect self she wanted to become. The classic books that the perfect Cait had to read, and the little black dress that the perfect Cait had to wear, left the premises. Now, she could breathe more easily and accept the eventual end of a life period marked by her parents' divorce. When you're ready to say goodbye to the old, you have one foot in the new. Now Flanders had to take care of the self that was left, the real Cait. Everyone deserves an occasional retreat in front of the TV, but everything has healthy limits. Flanders discovered hers by noting her cravings and feelings afterward. Slowly, she decreased her portions of junk food and noticed she no longer felt sick. Her golden questions were, why would I eat it if it doesn't make me feel good? And what do I really want right now? Key point 6. 1 year later. At the beginning of her challenge, Flanders was peaked enough to face her unhealthy habits. 1 year later, her confidence and self-trust grew so much that she had to advance her career to keep up. Her parents' divorce was still a big sore in her heart, but her decluttering sessions taught her to recognize relief. Ironically, this happened when she realized her family didn't need her to be another adult anymore. Her little brother Ben was the last child to receive the news, but his stoical reaction surprised and reassured Flanders that everything would be okay. She could spend her time on herself, and she didn't need much money to do so. The first thing she did was travel on a budget. Flanders hadn't had a vacation in almost 3 years because of her work, but the month she spent cutting her expenses made her realize she deserved one. Still, Flanders recognized her privilege after receiving some free accommodation thanks to her blogger friend with whom she traveled. The friends stayed in not just any hotel, but the Ritz-Carlton, one of the most luxurious hotel chains in the world. Imagine working from there. The journey made Flanders learn 2 valuable lessons. She didn't need more money to buy what she thought she needed. Sometimes, mental gymnastics on how to save up can lead you to unexpected solutions. Spending less helped her distinguish her real goals and values from those imposed by material goods. In the end, Flanders faced a life-changing decision. She settled on leaving her job and becoming a freelancer. For every time I caught myself dancing in the kitchen, I also found myself stopping and wondering what I had just given up. Cait Flanders. Saying goodbye to her old life wasn't easy, even with minimum possessions. Flanders had to hand a month's notice to her boss, who had also become her friend and mentor, which made the separation difficult. The fear of uncertainty was even harder, but in this case, she only had to look at her savings in a year to reassure herself of the possibilities. Her initial goal was still $1,000 away from being achieved, but it's always about the journey, not the destination. Your fear of failure doesn't hold a candle to your persistence. Conclusion. A lot can change in a year if you put your mind to it. Hopefully, Cait Flanders managed to dispel your worries about change. Clearing your space of possessions with stale energy can reopen old passions or signal when it's time for change. Remember how you end up sitting on the floor with old books, toys, or other sentimental items? That's how new ideas are born. So, start small, and if you feel like you need a shopping ban, give it a try. Try this. Specify your shopping ban. Are you trying to limit your online or store shopping? Choose a time frame for the ban, determine your necessities and how to avoid temptations, and decide on your end goal, for example, the amount of money saved. Choose a reasonable time limit, preferably 1 or 2 months. If the ban works for you, you can prolong it. One way to avoid buying is to transfer money to a retirement plan or even invest. Make a list when shopping for necessities to avoid spending more money. That's all for now. More intriguing summaries are just a click away.